All right, team. All audio and video checks are good. The webinar, I'm going into the back.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Thank you for meeting us this evening on June 9th, 2022. Roll call, please.
Carlson. Vieira. Maniscalco. Hurtak. Gould. Miranda.
Here.
And Cedro.
Yes.
We have physical quorum present.
Thank you very much. Mr. Massey.
Yes, sir. This is the June 9, 2022 evening meeting of the Tampa City Council held in City Council chambers on the third floor of Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard here in Tampa, Florida. The public is able to attend this meeting in person or to view it via cable television on Spectrum Channel 640 or Frontier Channel 15, or by the internet via www.tampa.gov/livestream. The public is also able to participate in the public hearings this evening, either here in person in City Council chambers or virtually by way of Communications Media Technology or CMT. However, the use of CMT does require pre-registration with the City Clerk's office. Directions for pre-registration are included in the notice of the meeting and on the agenda tonight. Members of the public may also participate in quasi-judicial matters remotely via CMT, but cell phones and smartphones are not compatible as they will not allow your camera when connected. You must have access to a CMT device such as a tablet or computer equipped with a camera or a microphone that will enable you to be seen and heard by City Council and all other participants in a quasi-judicial matter. Can I please have a motion waiving City Council standard rules?
Second.
Procedures to allow public comment by CMT.
Motion made by Councilman Goode, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Roll call vote.
Maniscalco? Yes. Viera? Goods?
Yes.
Miranda?
Yes.
Hurtak?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried with Viera being absent.
Staff, would we like to go over the agenda?
Thanks so much, Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. I'd like to clear a few items off the agenda. Going to the agenda here, we have REZ 22-26, agenda item number 6. This cannot be heard due to misnotice.
Second. Motion been made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Goode. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thanks so much. Agenda item number 3. Also, agenda item number 8. This is for the same addresses. The addresses are for 901 and 915 South Howard Avenue. The applicant is requesting a continuance to December 8th, 2022.
Move to continue items 3 and items number 8 to December 8th, 2022 at 5:01 p.m.
We have a motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, second, I believe, by Councilman Goode. Any discussion? I would like to state for the record that this is not directed to anyone. However, this council has decided to meet on extra days. When something comes before us, I hope the public is aware that we have decided to meet on extra days. And when they miss notice or they ask for continuances, that is going against what this council has proposed by meeting on extra days. I had to put that out there in the universe for the record. Mr. Hussein, moving it this far out on these 2 agenda items, does that go beyond our 120 days?
180 days.
180 days, excuse me.
I think is the applicant here? I think we need to have a waiver of the 180-day requirement.
Thank you.
From the applicant.
Steve McElhaney, representing the petitioner. Yes, we do request the waiver of the 180 days. This was not done frivolously at all, council. I'll put that on the record. We have been working diligently to resolve site plan issues, and it requires additional meetings with city staff, the neighbors, and adjacent property owners. So with all due respect to the council, we do respectfully request that they waive the 180 days and continue these hearings. The city staff is the one that gave us the date of December 8th to ensure that we had sufficient time so we would not have to come back and ask for any other continuances in the future.
Just,
Move to waive. Second.
Councilman Goode, you were the second on the moving it. Do you concur with Councilman Maniscalco? Okay, thank you very much. We still have that motion on the floor from Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goode, with the amendment of waiving the 180 days. Roll call vote.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
Viera?
Yes.
Goods?
Yes.
Miranda?
Yes.
Hurtak?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Carlson.
I just wanted to thank you for saying that also. On an agenda like tonight's, the good news is that maybe we'll get home earlier, but the bad news is that we've got a backlog of projects in our community that, for economic development reasons, we need to move forward quicker. And so I don't know if there's a way to move things forward when projects are misnoticed, but it sure feels like a shame because we're all here, the staff's all here, and we would love to review projects.
Thank you for that, Mr. Carlson. I totally agree with you. And then when developers or people that want to get permits say it's taking too long, it's because of the backlogs that have just been created by continuing and misnotices. So thank you for that. Councilwoman Hurtak.
You know, I feel exactly the same way, and I feel that maybe with development coordination, if there's a way to let people know that if they have to misnotice, that do they go to the very end of the line?
Council, for these two petitions, it was not a misnotice.
Oh, I know,
No,
I'm
no,
asking staff.
Okay, well, anyway,
McElhaney, we're done with
Yeah.
that.
Thank you very much.
We're just making our statements.
Yes, and I'm just asking,
And
Thank you,
it's not
Council.
directed to you.
Thank you very much, Council, for continuing those two hearings.
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yes, Councilwoman Hurtak. When the client or applicant misses notice or requests continuance, we try to find a date as soon as possible. So it could be within the next 2 or 3 hearings.
See, I kind of feel like if you misnotice, then you should you should have some penalty for that. Maybe that will make people not misnotice. I don't know. I mean, what is anyone else's
I
thought?
agree with that.
So, yeah, maybe let them know that they're actually going to go to the end of the line.
Okay.
And they're going to have to wait a lot longer. I think, to me, that would be a motivation.
Councilman Goods.
I was gonna just,
Policy that we can make that change?
I believe that Ms. Feely is going to be here to address you on the 23rd at a workshop about growth management and planning matters. I think she's aware of this issue and may want to address you on ways to try to manage this calendar. I mean, we've tried to make extra meetings available so that we can move zoning petitions through, and she's aware of this, and she's aware of what's happening this evening. In fact, we had a conversation about that this last week. And so I think she may want to address you on some ways that we can be able to constructively address this. So.
Zane, you take that back, you know, I think Councilman Hurtak is correct, and when you miss it, it's on you. We shouldn't have to trying to find ways you should go to the end of the line. So maybe she'll address that on the issue. It's on the 23rd, Mr. Massey?
Yes. 23rd is the scheduled workshop, and I believe it's all planning and growth management related items on that.
Thank you, sir.
Understood. And if I may say, staff is doing their best job to add the cases to fill the agendas per every night. Just as tonight, we're supposed to have 11 cases. We're supposed to be set. And unfortunately, I think we only set 6 or 7, and then some ask for continuances, some are misnoticed. So we're doing our best to have a full agenda because I know we are backlogged, and staff is working diligently on that.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, you mentioned 11, and that's our maximum, but I think there are only 8 on here. So the problem is one, we want to be fair to staff. As we always say, we're here as much as we need to be, and we've added dates. But we want to be fair to staff too, who take time away from their families on extra days. But also, there's a misperception that's been pushed to the media that somehow City Council is slowing down all these events, and we've heard reports from staff now that yes, the biggest problem is not us; it's that it's logged down in permitting and other kinds of review processes. And so Abby and her team are working on trying to fix that. It's been a long-term problem. But what happens is that when people get through that process, which they have lots of problems with, I get calls almost every day about that process. Then they come to our process and they say, well, we can't get on the schedule for 3 or 4 months, and they're already upset before they find out that. And it would be great if we could address some of the issues sooner, and if there are slots available. In this case, there were 3 slots available that we didn't fill at all. We didn't have to continue, but now the 3 that we did, so that's 6 slots that we could have done to push projects forward.
Again, Ms. Feely, I think will address some of this. There are a bunch of issues. I mean, part of the problem is that we have a 30-day notice requirement, so when you have to schedule things fairly far in advance. I think another issue that I think staff is dealing with, it's not really the problem with staff, but a lot of applications come in that are not really complete. And so,
Yes.
and what happens is that they get tentatively scheduled, but then there are major issues with the application, and they're not ready to get presented, and they get delayed. And that presents problems in the calendaring of various items for you.
But the problem, if I just could follow, this is another
Councilman
issue, another issue for another day. But Ms. Feely admitted that they need to be more firm in the beginning and tell people they don't have everything together, because what the most common comment I get and criticism is that people feel like the process is arbitrary. You know, there's one example from several years ago where a person that has what he calls a $4,000 toilet. The inspector came and said, you need a toilet handle on the left, and then they came in a month later and said, now you need it on the right, and then the next person said you need it on the left. And it's a real example. They went back and forth. Finally, he got a new toilet altogether. He's like, why is my big project being held up by a toilet? And I just got another call about this yesterday, that people feel that every time somebody comes in, they're told to do something different, and the process is not consistent. And so that's different than being told, here you have to fill all these blanks on a form. It's different when they have different people giving them different advice. And so we need to fix that process, but we also need to fix this schedule. So any help, I know you all are working hard, but any help you can give to move these faster, you know, our intent is to try to work with the community to move these as fast as possible. We've got a housing shortage, and we've got you know, economic cliffs on the horizon that we may be hitting, and we want to move these as fast as we can. Thank you.
Mr. Hussein, I didn't mean to stir up a hornet's nest.
Good, thank you so much.
Okay. Does that conclude your adjustment of the agenda?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Move to open the 501 public hearing.
Second.
Okay. At this time, anyone who is going to be giving any testimony this evening, to please rise and be sworn in. Anyone giving any testimony? I know, but I still want to get it done. So don't have to do it. Thank you very much. Our first agenda item number 1 is file number TA CPA 21-27.
Good evening, Council. Mr. Chair, Susan Johnson-Velez, Legal Department. I just wanted to make a couple of brief comments before I turn it over to Planning Commission staff, Melissa Dickens. I just wanted to remind Council this is a continued public hearing for a comprehensive plan amendment, TA CPA 21-27, which is a publicly initiated comp plan amendment that the city is required to make in order to comply with state statutes. So it's not a public hearing on any aspect of any particular water department project that's not already on the CIP. So I know Council in the last couple of days has received a number of emails about this item, including questioning why this public hearing is taking place in the evening. It's taking place in the evening because all public hearings for comprehensive plan amendments are placed on evening agendas, and because this is a comprehensive plan amendment item, that explains why it's on your evening agenda this evening. So Council will recall the public hearing was continued from May 26, 2022 at Council's request so that Council could be further briefed. And I know I, as well as McLean Evans with the Legal Department, Mr. Weber with the Water Department, as well as Planning Commission staff members, Melissa Dickens, Sean College, and David Hay, over the past week and a half, we've had briefings with all the council members except Mr. Carlson. We regret that we weren't able to meet with you since you were out of town, but I believe we have answered all of the council members' questions, but we're all here again this evening if you have any further questions about the amendment. I did want to just highlight a couple of things. That adoption of this comp plan amendment doesn't constitute any type of funding authorization for any aspect of any particular water department project, including the Pure project. I know that's what kind of generated the comments and concern at the last meeting. And it's also my understanding that there will be an agenda item staff report on council's agenda after your summer break that will specifically address the Pure project. So with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Dickens for her brief presentation.
Councilman Carlson.
I think we ought to cancel this or defer it because of misnotice. As I said 2 weeks ago, council's rules that we passed a couple months ago require that it say Pure in the summary of the item the public is very concerned about not being noticed on this. And, you know, I was out of town, so I didn't even call anybody. The public found out about it organically and started emailing and calling, and they're very upset. People that the water department thought were allies now are completely against it because they feel like the water department's not being transparent and not being accountable, as the mayor said the city should be. But city council required that the summary say pure in it. I don't see the word pure anywhere in here. It's not specifically for pure, but it has a clause that is about pure. And I mean, I think this ridiculous project should be canceled, period, but it's not noticed correctly, and the public's upset just about the lack of transparency, and so I think we ought to reschedule it.
Is that a motion? Excuse me, Councilman Miranda.
May I ask the legal department, have we met all of the policies of the law in noticing of this item?
We've met all the legal requirements for noticing of a comprehensive plan amendment.
Is this something unique, or is this something that's been like this in the historical value that is handled at night?
All comprehensive plan amendment public hearings and first readings of the ordinances for those comprehensive plan amendments take place at evening meetings.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Goose.
Mr. Velez, and I know you are trying to straight shoot, then why is Mr. Carlson saying what he's saying? Is he incorrect about something? Are we missing something here versus what Mr. Miranda is asking? Did we meet any legal aspects? So what is Mr. Carlson saying that we should be more knowledgeable of, or we're missing something?
Well, I believe, and I know I've reviewed the emails that you've received, and a lot of them were about Pure specifically, but again, this item is a comprehensive plan amendment that references Pure in one attachment, one line and one attachment in the comprehensive plan amendment. It relates to the adoption of the 10-year water facilities work plan that does reference Pure, but only to the extent that it's already been adopted by City Council in the CIP. So again, this is a comp plan amendment that's much broader than any particular water department project. And it's done because we were required to do it by state law. The regional water supply, the SwiftMud adopted their regional water supply plan 18 months ago, and on November of 2020, we have 18 months after that to incorporate that into our comp plan or make the necessary changes to effectuate that in our comp plan. I mean, that put the deadline for us at mid-May, and so we're here in almost mid-June, and so I just, there's a little bit of concern about continuing to delay.
Let me ask another question if I may.
Yeah, I'll get back to you in 1 second. Councilman Miranda, yes.
So, it's in fact that every so often, within a period of time, all these things are asked by SwiftMud. Isn't this regarding 3 entities, which is Tampa, City of Tampa, Southwest Water Management, and Tampa Bay Water? It's a cooperative of 3, not of 1.
Ms. Miranda, yes, Jean Duncan, Administrator of Infrastructure and Mobility. You are correct. And in the sense of checking all the boxes in terms of the comp plan amendment approach, the standard process we have for submitting this 10-year plan, we have done all of those things as required. I do regret and apologize that the council's specific request for being notified of Pure was not done as it should have. However, I do have a compromise that I think will satisfy the time-sensitive need to submit this to the DEO as we're required, yet allay the concerns about the Pure project. And that compromise or suggestion that council could entertain of whether it's your pleasure or not to do, is we remove the Pure project from the CIP list in our document. We ask that removal be done between now and second reading, so we stay on schedule with our submittal. And then when we get to a point where there is more of a consensus of moving forward or not with Pure, we go back and do another plan amendment to add the project back to the plan if that is the outcome of our public engagement and our alternative analysis.
Councilman Miranda.
And just to continue, thank you very much. Just to continue what I was getting at. So in order to have transparency, what I'm going to do when it gets to the actual context, I'm going to read all the 32 documents of objectives, what it means, so that there's no misunderstanding here with the media, with the people in any part of the city, what this is all about. This is not new. This is done every 10 years, if I recall. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, just for the purpose of the opening discussion, as Ms. Duncan confirmed, we City Council agreed months ago in our request to the staff that any project that has pure in it should have the word pure in the summary, so that we and the public clearly know that it's there, and it's just a transparency thing. Mm-hmm. And we did pass that rule. It's not about state law and the notice, it's about City Council's rules, because we want to be transparent to the public, and we want the department to be transparent to the public. And some folks in the community found out about it and started talking about it, but just on that alone, I think without the proposal you made, we should delay it. But I also brought that up a couple weeks ago. We delayed it last time. I'm surprised it wasn't changed. The other thing is that you all have been meeting regularly with Sierra Club and Friends of the River and others, and they say that nobody reached out to them about this and gave them a heads up on it. And it may not be a state requirement, but if you're trying to bring along partners, they all have scientists and engineers and others that are looking at it, and they have great concerns, and they're representing many constituents in the public. But it concerns me that somebody didn't proactively reach out to them. The other thing is from a state law perspective, I've talked to people at the state, and we don't need this project at all. We can ask for an exception. I think if the city did it, I wouldn't trust the exception to not be biased in some way, but we can ask for an exception for what we're doing already, and there's no deadline. If we applied for an exception based on what we're doing already, then we can work at our own pace and talk to the public and work out this project. Eventually, we will need to do this, but not for a long time, and we should be able to have those robust debates. And to save time, I'm happy now, if we want to shortcut it, to make a motion to pass this as with minus any reference to pure and taking out the pure budget. If you want to go through the whole presentation, we can, but I would be, with that compromise, I would be willing to make a motion for it.
Yeah, second, that's what I was gonna.
And Council, I didn't mean to steal Melissa's thunder. This was something that we did discuss amongst agencies, and also with one or two of the council members we were able to reach in a short period of time. Again, I personally apologize for this oversight. We're learning some hard lessons very quickly about the sensitivity and our need to really improve on our transparency. It was just innocent error, and it wasn't any planned effort to conceal anything. But again, there is a method for moving forward for what we need to get done, which most people agree we should get done, which is the majority of our CIP. And we're willing to table this. Melissa and the Planning Commission have been gracious to agree that this is a reasonable thing to do. And so if it's your pleasure to have this removed, you can comment, Melissa, but we don't see any issue with that in terms of getting our submittals turned in, and then moving forward to further develop the Pure project. Whatever the outcome, we can entertain your suggestion as well, Mr. Carlson, Councilman Carlson, as a separate topic, if that's okay, just so we can kind of split this part away and move forward on this piece of a time-sensitive submittal we need to make.
Thank you. Councilman Carlson, can you state your motion so that the clerk has it properly?
Sure. I would like to move to approve this with the exception of taking out all references to the Pure project, and including taking out the budget for Pure. Do I need to read it? Okay. File number, you want me to read it, Mr. Chair?
1 second. We have to hear from staff first. Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, council members. Melissa Dickens, Planning Commission staff. First, I want to apologize for the lack of the Pure item on the agenda. This was a Planning Commission item that the Planning Commission prepared. We were not aware of the requirement ahead of time, and I do apologize. That came from us, and in the future, we will certainly make sure to pay more attention. So I wanted everyone to know that this agenda item came from us. not from city staff. So I wanted to set that record clear.
Thank you.
Secondly, the state statute requires that this be updated within 18 months of regional water supply plan adoption. As others have stated, we are a bit late on getting this through. We would not want to set up a situation where, there could be some sort of enforcement action or other measure taken by DEO. So, council has the option to either adopt this amendment. We would recommend that council adopt the amendment or adopt it with modifications if council sees fit. And I wanted to share that recommendation for the record.
Thank you. Any other staff going to be speaking on this, or is it just you?
From Planning Commission, unless I need David Hay, it will probably be just me. And then we have city staff as well.
Thank you. Does city staff want to speak on this? Thank you. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to comment to this? Now, we realize that Pure has been taken off of this. So, does anybody want to speak to file number TACPA 21-27 sans Pure? Going once. I know. I'm trying to get her to.
I guess I'd like to speak. I have comments prepared. Where do I go? Right here.
Right there.
All right. I try to keep
Again, we are not talking about Pure.
Okay. So I won't. Okay. Just want to. All right. So I just want to support then. My name is Nancy Stevens with the Sierra Club, and I just want to support taking Pure off. And my comments were all addressed at taking it off this comprehensive plan because we had not been made aware of it, that it was in this comprehensive plan. And personally, after meeting with the city staff on a regular basis, I was personally, I felt betrayed because they had sort of tried to slip. I felt like they were trying to slip it in. So I want to make sure that we go back to our agreement from February, that we get the funding, and then after the public outreach and getting public input and doing more further research, that we then consider Pure in a more straightforward way. But we'll push. I'm glad. Thank you for pushing that off, and I appreciate that. And I'm going to just leave it at that. Thank you.
Good evening. If it please the council, I would like to speak to why it is a good idea to remove Pure at this time. Would that be acceptable to you? Would that be relevant to tonight's discussions?
For you, Mr. Compton, yes.
Well, thank you, sir. I'm Phil Compton. I'm with Friends of the River, which has over 1,000 followers here. One of a handful of citizens who's met monthly for the last year and a half with city staff on their plans for Pure. But none of us, as Ms. Stevens just stated, knew anything about this particular process with the comp plan and the CIT until this week's agenda came out. Is Pure being part of the city's plans not important? Or are we going through a process of death by 1,000 cuts until it's too late to stop what? At this point, with what we know, and we know more than pretty much anybody in the community, unfortunately, looks like a very risky, expensive, and unnecessary project. Several months ago, we supported council's allocation for a continuation of work on the project with a stipulation that council made that staff consider all options, yet somehow no one bothered to amend the language of this comp plan amendment to include anything other than what staff had wanted to do all along, which is to use it for the minimum flow and to augment a drinking water supply. We have serious concerns that this is a project that may never prove to meet the basic criteria that we've made clear to you and to the city staff, that the water produced be proven to be both safe and affordable for the people and for fish and wildlife in the river. Until standards are established for the multitude of contaminants that are found in this wastewater, and the city can demonstrate that the treatment process that it chooses will reduce all such contaminants to levels set by such standards as being safe, we maintain that the city cannot and should not plan to move forward with this project and should therefore instead immediately delete, as you are doing, all reference to it from the comp plan and CIT until such time as proof of safety and affordability can be demonstrated to you and the public. If this proves to create a problem with the state's timeline for compliance, the city should coordinate with all other local governments in the state who are in the same boat with us and appeal to the state to grant an exception or amend the law. Now, the city really is in a pickle. We understand that. It cannot prove that they can treat this water so it's safe and affordable until these standards are established, and that is something that none of us are in control of. We must therefore put a hold on this project until such time as we can be certain that we need it, that we can pay for it, and that it will do no harm to the people who drink the river's water and to the fish and wildlife who live in our river. So thank you for your action tonight.
Excuse me, Mr. Compton?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Carlson?
Yes, sir.
Just usually on these things, we ask people about their expertise and experience. Could you just quickly tell us your expertise and experience, and also what resources does Sierra Club have to call on? Do you have access to engineers and scientists at a local or national level?
Yes, yeah, at the national level and state level, yes, we do that as well. We've recently established a policy on related to these sorts of issues because Tampa's not alone in dealing with this sort of thing. Myself personally, I'm one of the founders of the Friends of the River Citizens Group that's been working with the city, sometimes against the city, to encourage the city to consider the needs of this river and to restore the river to the health and beauty that has attracted many people. We've had some success in that the river is now healthier than it used to be. A study back in 15 years ago showed that our initial concern that Sulphur Springs water alone was not sufficient to restore the nursery where life of Tampa Bay begins in the lower river below the dam, that our concern was correct, and that the city, and that has proven to be very successful. To a certain degree, we think it could go further, but at any rate, yes, we've been working on this for a long time.
You have access to experts and volunteers and experts who are attending national conferences and gathering. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you have people you have access to who are looking at this issue on a national level and studying best practices nationally.
Yes.
I'm going to get back to our agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Carlson.
Again, Mr. Compton, thank you. And again, the genie is out of the box now. I'm hoping that no one else is going to be talking about Pure. We're talking about this agenda item. Mr. Compton, please. I just have one question for you.
Trying to move things along.
Aforementioned standard.
Yes, sir.
Who sets those standards?
That is to be set by the federal government. It could be set by the state.
We need to get them off their tuchus. So
Exactly.
we have guidelines.
And
Thank you, Mr. Compton.
I believe the EPA is starting to do that work, but it is long overdue.
Thank you, Mr. Compton. Ms. Bennett, do you have anything to say about TACPA 21-27, Sands Pure?
May I speak about transparency about it?
This is not public comment on anything else but the agenda items.
I just wish that I had known about it sooner. I found out about it yesterday by accident. I feel that...
State your name, please.
Oh, my name is
Bennett.
Carol Ann Bennett.
Thank you.
I know that when an agreement was reached with a lot of stakeholders about supporting, going ahead with some research, a big part of that was public outreach. And a tiny little blurry line item on the bottom of the last page, the last line, is not good public outreach if we didn't know about this until yesterday. No one was here 2 weeks ago when it came up. Not a single person from the public spoke on it because nobody knew about it. And at that time, it was mentioned that Pure should be in big fat letters on anything that addresses Pure. And that wasn't corrected from May 26th to June 9th. Thank you.
Thank you. I still have to go to anybody that's online. Is there anyone online? Ms. Strohmeyer. Ms. Strohmeyer. Ms. Pointer, Ms. Stephanie Pointer, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
We are speaking. We are speaking to agenda item number 1, not about Pure.
Beautiful. Good evening, folks. I didn't write anything because I wanted to see what everybody had to say first. But I'd like to go back to Ms. Dickens. her agenda PowerPoint from last time. I apologize. I'm in DC and I've been in my Winnebago for 26 hours. So, bottom line is I looked
Where are
at the
you at?
PowerPoint.
I'm sorry, Ms. Pointer, where are you at? I can't see you.
What? Well, you don't have to see me. This is not a
Okay, you're correct. You're correct.
Okay. It says in her PowerPoint last time that this is publicly initiated, which kind of goes to that whole public thing. And it also said that there's a whole lot of agency comment, but it didn't show where we had specific public comment. Now, I have looked at things for the comp plan. We have hosted folks for the comp plan, but we didn't talk about water in particular, and we didn't have big, long discussions about it. So I'm just trying to figure out where the public comment part of that comes in. And I think that's a big missing element to what is being presented, because we have agency comment, but not public comment. And what I've found over the years is that by ignoring the public, it only gets worse. So let's get some public hearings done so that we can, or some public meetings done so that we can talk about this. But I don't recall any of those being done. And certainly when they do get sent out, I send them out to everybody in fan land and Facebook land and next door land. And I share the heck out of any kind of city and planning department events, but I don't recall any of those, and I don't usually miss much. But that's just my comment on the agenda item. I'm glad to see that you're being removed from that, because I think that's a good step. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Pointer. Ms. Strohmeyer, I see you. I see you're on now. Again, we're talking about agenda item 1, not about Pure.
Here's my notes from today, and here's my notes from the 26th. Not sure why I couldn't get online. My name is Jean Strohmeyer. Let's see. Here's all my notes. So I did watch the presentation from the 26th again, just to so I just have to tell you, first of all, just by calling it a publicly initiated blah, 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 it sounds like the public actually initiated something. We did not initiate anything, because we would have known that there was this meeting about this. So we didn't know that. So that's kind of, it's, and I have heard them, testify or, state, that, from the May 26th, the lady that spoke said, oops, we missed this part out of the version out of the packet. Oops, like 5 minutes before the meeting. Oops, did Bloomberg tell her to say that? The new actual pseudo mayor of our city? Just wondering. Let's see. So we have the 10-year water supply. That's what they're saying this is about, but we already know it's that other buzzword. They said it was from February. I'm not sure where, because I looked into the February agenda or the May agenda, and it didn't say anything about being continued from February. So please clarify that. I wanted to know what Tampa Bay Water says about this issue that we're dealing with, that is minus the pure funding. And also in that video, or in the May 26th meeting, the lady that gave the presentation, she's standing there, I guess, she said there was no objections. But my question is, but there was no disclosure. Nobody knew about it. Ms. Hurtek said, what about the education from last time? She said, and are people being educated to use alternate means of water? Now, I remember back in the day, we used to have to put a brick in the toilet, or they would do, just different low flow options. They would give us education on watering and low flow watering. As a matter of fact, get rid of all the salt. We don't really need salt. And for this meeting, for nobody to speak to Bill Carlson, the voice of this entire matter for us, and y'all didn't speak to him, that is a travesty. It is and you spoke to 2 council members, is what I heard somebody say. Who were those? I bet you I can guess. I'm not gonna say it out loud, but I bet you I can guess. And I would like to know the answer to that. Please send it to me by email. And let's see. Lastly, this city, let's see, correct, what? I don't want. So that y'all may be correct. Everybody says they dotted their I's and crossed their T's. That's a legal term, and I've been in the legal business my entire adult life, and I'm over 50. And yeah, we use those terms. It's general. And yes, we did, but it's not in the spirit of transparency. It's not in the spirit of good faith. It is not good faith. The reasonable man would not do that, right? Councilman, that's the attorney. Last but not least about this city, I'm really concerned, and I told you I'll pray for y'all all the time, but y'all
Thank
remember
you, Ms.
Sodom and
Strohmeyer.
Gomorrah from the Bible? Just remember,
Thank you.
this is where we're going.
Thank
Sodom
you.
and Gomorrah.
Mr. Keyport.
Hey, good evening, Tampa City Council. My name is Tim Keyport. I'm the president of the Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association. In reviewing and preparing for tonight's meeting, I wanted to just read a couple of items that are in SIRE. This is the 4th attachment, and this is coming from the Hillsborough County City County Planning Commission. Specifically in the environmental section, it speaks to striving to reduce potable water demands through conservation. Policy 1.26.2, continue to develop and promote educational programs for water conservation. Going on, developing and enforcing water conservation measures and programs, and then expanding the distribution of reclaimed water. We know that as the Purple Pipe program. Further, one of the attachments speaks to the fact that conservation efforts and advanced metering infrastructure, that would be the digital water meters to let you know you have a leak, will continue to be the primary city strategies to offset future potable use and reduce future potable demand. And it even specifies approximately 7.15 million gallons a day are the projected reclaimed offset by 2040 per the SwiftMud staff. So sort of piggybacking off of Gene's comments, City Council had approved community outreach as part of the word that we're not going to say tonight. And yet I have not seen any efforts, even though the environmental section specifically speaks to continuing to develop and promote educational programs for water conservation, et cetera, et cetera. So if we're not educating the public, as Gene just pointed out, and we know we can save through conservation efforts and the advanced metering devices, once those are fully deployed throughout the city, 7.15 million gallons a day, which is a significant portion of the overall 120 or 125 million gallons a day requirement through expanded public outreach. And I would recommend that goes through the neighborhoods, because I would not have known about this issue if it hadn't been for Stephanie Pointer calling yesterday and saying, hey, did you know this item is on the agenda for tomorrow night? And I got that call at 4 o'clock. So 1 hour to get online, register to make comment, and then a little bit of time today reading through the documents. I do hope that Mr. Miranda does actually read all the attachments. I would appreciate that in advance of voting. This agenda item included $146 million for the line item that we're not going to talk about tonight. I'm sorry, $162 million in that line item. So we're known as Champa Bay. The reason we're known as Champa Bay is we don't make a lot of unforced errors on our sports teams. And I think it's time for the city to stop making unforced errors. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Keyport.
Thank you, Council, and we appreciate the comments from the public. I did want to clarify that this item did go through the normal plan amendment process. We do provide multiple opportunities for the public to comment on the plan amendment, so I wanted to make sure that the public knew that the process, the standard process was followed. Additionally, I was remiss in not offering you all a PowerPoint presentation. It did seem like perhaps that was not the desire of council, but I never want to assume, so I did want to let council know that I do have a presentation if you all would like to me to go through it.
No. Hey, I'm fine. Okay. Let's do it. I can stay here at midnight. I got no problem with it.
Do you want me to make the motion again?
Does this finish your presentation? Mr. Hay, did you want to add anything? City staff, did you want to add anything?
Susan Johnson-Velez, Legal Department. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to, just for one point of clarification, this is a publicly initiated comprehensive plan amendment. What that means is that it's initiated by either city staff or planning commission staff. That's the meaning of publicly initiated. Ironically, when something, an amendment is initiated by a member of the public, it's referred to as privately initiated. So that is the distinction. That's why it's called publicly initiated. It doesn't mean that a member of the public initiated. It's coming from either planning commission staff or city staff.
Thank you.
I thought she was.
Sorry.
Go ahead,
And
please.
also, just for the record, just wanted to clarify that this is not in any way an approval of any type of funding or authorization for any particular project that's listed in any of the exhibits or attachments to the comprehensive plan amendment.
Thank you.
You're
Councilman Vieira.
Thank you, sir. And I just want to state the obvious to the administration, which is when I'm always taken aback when I hear from, especially tonight, because we're hearing from even additional parts of the city of Tampa that haven't been here before on this issue, that, you know, when we're talking about a vigorous outreach effort, that really needs to continue to happen. Because when I read the emails, and I was speaking to some of the activists on that before, when I read the emails and some of the understanding as to what was going to occur tonight, and then what was actually, there's a big gap that's there. So there's, and again, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, I'm not taking any sides or anything of that nature, but just that engagement and that level of trust needs to continue to be pushed forward, because there's obviously a lot of skepticism that we're going to continue to hear about and whatnot. And I'm also on an information inquiring effort as well on this issue. But that there's a duty to continue to engage. And tonight, I think I just see it even more acutely. So just tonight on this small issue, I think it just shows a big duty to continue to engage on that issue.
Council, if I have your agreement, I'd like to just make one quick comment to that, Councilman Vieira.
Please.
Unfortunately, we have two agency processes that sort of had an interface here tonight, and we regret any confusion. You are absolutely right, Councilman Vieira, and as Mr. Carlson said earlier, we plan to have vigorous community engagement on the PURE project. We will be coming before you most likely the end of July with that amendment that you previously approved for us to have a more robust public engagement, as well as analysis of the set of alternatives to make sure we looked at every alternative that was on the table previously, not just a couple that seem to be standing out more than others. So we do plan to have that process, and we will be coming before you around the end of July for that approval. So we can really go into that particular topic at that time. The PURE project tonight is about, as we've said, the publicly initiated text amendment for the comprehensive plan. So again, we regret that these processes sometimes are confusing, and we certainly will do everything we can to make sure if there's anything at all related to PURE, whether it's a city initiated or outside of the city for whatever reason, that we bring that to everyone's attention, the stakeholders, the council, and we appreciate all the time you all have given us, as well as our stakeholders, to engage with us, and we don't want to make you feel that we're taking that lightly and not, sincerely interested in having you engage throughout the entire process. Thank you for that time.
Thank you. Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, just a couple quick comments on that. Number one, apologies to Melissa for having to sit in the hot seat on this. The Planning Commission has their own processes, and they were handed this budget, and they don't always know the issues behind the issues as they go forward. So thank you for standing up there. The second thing is to Ms. Duncan, I think public comment I think should have been done a couple years ago. We paid for some public comment. But the basic public comment has to be on two issues. One, what do we do with this 50 MGD? We already know from Whit Raymer that it's cleaner, putting into the bay, the water's cleaner than the Hillsborough River that's coming out. And we know from estuary programs and others that it's helping the bay as it is. The second thing, but what should we do with this 50 MGD? Separate from that is a question about how do we provide safe, quality, cost-effective drinking water for our citizens in the future. And it's not like we have a shortage. We know we can buy it from Tampa Bay Water. They have a rolling 20-year plan, and we can find ways to provide our own. but as we look at the second one, we need to be honest about it. As the mayor says, and I agree with that, I have 20 or 30 years of experience in water issues. Water is the most important issue for the future. But the way we've gone about it in the past is not the right way. It's like somebody, either politically or within the department, wants this project, and they'll do anything to get this project, and they don't care about looking at the alternatives. So I hope when you come back with the alternatives, that it will be objective alternatives that really look at answering those two questions. What should we do with the 50 MGD? And second, how do we provide safe, cost-effective, quality drinking water? And I would ask the water department, please, when you're talking to the mayor, tell her the truth. The last time I met with the mayor, she turned to me and said, we can't, this was just a few months ago, she said, we can't buy water from Tenant-Based water. And I said, why not? She said, because their water quality is not good. And I said, Madam Mayor, we disproved that 3 years ago when it first came out. And she said, well, we get complaints about New Tampa. Obviously, she's hearing this from the water department, and it's old information. And the reason is that there's two different, it's not that the quality of water from Tibra water is bad, it's that there are two different sources and two different methods of treating it. And it's a simple, inexpensive fix to fix the cloudiness problem that comes in New Tampa. That's not an obstacle to buying water, but for some reason, she's been given that information. Also, she said to me at one point, I mentioned desal and water reuse. She said, well, that desal plant doesn't work. It's not operating with Tampa water. I said, it's been operating since the beginning. And then she said, well, it's not operating at full capacity. And I said, it doesn't operate at full capacity because it's the most expensive source. We don't want them to run at full capacity. But these are the issues. Please, if you all are talking to the mayor, she needs to know the truth. She needs to know all the permutations of it, not somebody's cheat sheet on how to sell a program. She needs to know all the options so that she can talk to the public about it and have an honest engagement about it. But for some reason, somebody's convinced her that this is a good idea, and it's absolutely not. Any engineer outside the city knows that this is a bad idea. And so please, God, find a way to show the mayor the objective views, show us the objective view of what the alternatives are, and we'll come up with a solution that's good for the public. Let's put the water department, city council, and the mayor on the same side of the table, and let's go to the public and find answers to those two questions. And if we do that, and if we're honest about it, we're going to end up with something different, but we'll solve the problems for the future of the city, which is what we really need to be doing instead of fighting about a bad project. Thank you.
Are you finished?
Yes. Move to close.
Oh, let me say one thing.
Councilman Goose.
You know, everyone in this council has an expertise. I'm not the water expert guy. I'm not that guy. I have to read and listen to the comments from other councilmen to bring an opinion or come to a conclusion on how I vote on issues. Everyone has expertise. Mr. Banana, he knows water back and forth. Mr. Carlson knows it. But I want to say thank you, Gene, for coming forth and telling us where the mistake was made. The mayor talks about transparency. You know, it's transparent when it wants to be transparent. But I'm glad that when I asked that question, Mr. Miranda says, all laws made. Well, Mr. Carlson says it wasn't. And finally, we get the truth that there was a mistake made. It's no problem with that. If it was made, okay, fine. But I think when we have two different agencies, and so you can tell me if the Planning Commission is coming to the city, plans to tell us what's going on, that they wouldn't know, would not be able to tell them what happened. So either somebody dropped the ball, which that could happen, but I'm glad tonight we were able to figure out how the ball was dropped. So I just want to say, thank you, Gene, for coming forth and telling us the truth about what's going on. So again, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilwoman Hurtak. Any objection? Thank you. Councilman Carlson.
Madam Clerk, do I need to read it?
Yes, please.
Yes.
I move file number TA CPA 2127, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance amending the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan infrastructure and potable water elements by updating the 10-year water supply facilities work plan for fiscal year 2022 through fiscal year 2032, providing for appeal of all ordinances of conflict, providing for severability, providing effective date, removing between first and second reading any references or budgets for the Pure project and or water reuse.
We have a motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Any further discussion? Councilman.
Mr. Chairman, I made a statement earlier that if You wanted me to read all the items. There's intergovernmental coordination section, capital improvement section, environmental section, potable water section, staff analysis recommendations, intergovernmental coordination section, environmental section, and potable water section. I'll be more than happy to read them all on the record. It'll take about an hour and a half because there's a lot of them.
Is that a motion?
No, I'm just saying, if you want me to do it, I'll put it. I want transparency. I want this whole thing clean. I want it like bottled water without the plastic poison in it.
Watch out, bottled water isn't held to the same standards as city water is.
You'd be surprised. It's up to the council. If you want me to do it, I'll do it.
No, we're good.
I'll do it between first and second reading.
Thank you, Councilman Miranda. The only thing I'm going to say is thank you, everyone, that's been involved in this evening. Roll call vote.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on July 14, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you.
Councilman Carlson.
I just wanted to say thank you, Ms. Duncan, also for proposing that. Probably saved us an hour or two tonight. Thank you.
Agenda item number 2, F22-75284.
Good evening, council. I am here today to...
Your name, please.
Kayon Henderson, manager for City of Tampa's Housing and Community Development Division. I'm here today to go over our annual action plan as well as our consolidated plan. I do believe you guys have the PowerPoint. CTTV has the PowerPoint we'll pull up. So we are in a unique year this year where every year we have our annual action plan, but this is our year to do our con plan, our consolidated plan, which really is designed to help jurisdictions assess their affordable housing and community development needs. And so the con plan really describes what those multi-year goals are, and that's based on both the needs as well as the available resources. As they skip over the next two slides, it will bring you to the first slide that talks about what the annual action plan is, which it does give the activities that we will undertake as the city overall, what we're going to do for the upcoming year and to address the housing needs. And this year, because we're in our consolidated plan year, we will have our consolidated plan submitted to HUD in DC as well as our annual action plan, so that will be part of it for the first year. So the funding sources that's part of this is will all be federal funds. It's going to be our Community Development Block Grant, Emergency Solutions Grant, Housing Opportunity for Persons with AIDS and HIV, as well as our Home Investment Program. And I'll talk a little bit more about what those programs specifically will do. As we go to the next slide, it gives a little bit about what CDBG is. It is an entitlement program that is given to larger cities and counties to develop and do safe housing, decent, and a suitable living environment to really expand economic opportunities, as well as looking at what we can do for services for those who are low to moderate low to income families and households. Our ESG, that's probably our smallest pot, and you'll see overall what we get. That's our Emergency Solutions Grant. That's specifically for those who are homeless. We get roughly about $270,000 for the city of Tampa to solve the homeless issue specifically. So we do get innovative and create ways to use other funds to kind of help combat that. And that does come with some rules of what we can use for shelter operations, what we can do for rapid rehousing and street outreach. Again, because we have such limited funds, we really put most of that towards our rapid rehousing to rapidly get someone rehoused, as well as shelter operations that we'll do. The next slide shows our HOPWA grant, which is our Housing Opportunity for Persons with AIDS and HIV. The city really is unique with this one grant that we actually oversee it for 4 surrounding counties. So we oversee this grant for Hillsborough, Pasco, Hernando, and Pinellas. And so that is our largest grant funding-wise, but we do have to then spread it across 4 counties. Hillsborough County does get the larger portion of that, but that's, again, that's about $4.6 million, and I'll go over that a little bit later. And then our home investment partnership program, really that's a wide range of housing-related activities. A lot of times we talk about what we could do with housing, but this is actually the only federal grant that we have that can do new construction. And so that one can be, again, used for low and moderate income individual households. As we go to the next slide, it has some of the priority needs that we have identified. Housing rehabilitation, we know that owner-occupied rehab program really is a big need, and so we set aside funds for that. It is offered as a forgivable loan to homeowners to really improve the living conditions, to help them stay where they are, to maintain the affordability. The homeowner assistance, also known as our DARE program, that's our first-time home buyer program where we do provide that gap funding to help those who have the dream of owning their own home. Rental assistance program, we have a program called Tibra, Tenant-Based Rental Assistance. Earlier I said we are restricted in how much we get from Emergency Solutions Grant. That's specific for those who are homeless. This is a program where we've used our home dollars to stretch, and so we have a tenant-based rental assistance program where we assist those who are specifically, they're homeless. They get a voucher for up to 2 years while we work on getting them self-sufficient, and so we have about 67 to 70 families that we're able to fund through that. The next slide shows, we have new construction still as a priority need in trying to make sure that we expand what our affordable housing efforts are. And so the home funds can be used for that. And so we didn't do an RFA this year for home funds, but looking at how we maximize what those dollars are to make sure that we can get some new construction. Those funds are also then used for down payment assistance as well as our owner-occupied rehab. Then we have supported housing operations as well as public service assistance, and so through our CDBG efforts as well as our HOPWA efforts, we're able to do some of that wraparound services for those individuals. Again, with the ones for HOPWA, they have to specifically either have HIV or AIDS or have an affected family member who has HIV or AIDS in the household who's under 18. The next slide just gives a breakdown overall of what our funding awards are. We've gotten a slight increase in all of our funding this year, very slight. So for CDBG, we have about 3.1 million for home, 1.9, HOPWA, 4.6, ESG, like I said, it's roughly about 280. SHIP is the only one that's listed here that is not a federal source. It's about 3.7 million, but we like to add it just to show what we use to leverage our program. So we have approximately $13 million that we'll allocate throughout the year for housing projects. The next slide has the calendar of events. So we have released the RFA for CDBG only this year. The reason why it's only CDBG, some of the other grants have 3-year agreements, and so they're in multi-year agreements, so we don't have that opportunity to then release that RFA. We did do a technical assistance virtual workshop. We offered for those who wanted to come in person to come in person. We had quite a few agencies attend, and we had about 14 agencies that actually responded to that. We had, after the workshop, we gave them the ability to ask questions in case anything wasn't clear, or once they started the application process, they needed clarification. So once they submitted those questions to us, then we answered them and then gave them a chance to ask clarifying questions on top of that. We did do the proposal review and recommendations where we get with subject matter experts, really in the community to kind of come back and review those applications and give what they've seen maybe as deficiencies in the application. So as we go through the negotiation process, we want to make sure we have a really strong agreement and funds that can help the public. So I'm here today, it's highlighted for the first public hearing. I do come back on June 23rd with the second public hearing and open the public comment period for 30 days, where we'll then have a little bit more detail of who we plan to fund and how the dollars will be allocated specifically. So at July 14th, that does close the second public, the comment period, where we'll come back before you with that draft action plan with all the comments that have come in. In between those days, the 30-day public comment period, we'll have about 7
public input meetings throughout City of Tampa where we'll have the public come out, we'll have the public input survey where they can come out and tell us really where they see the needs for us to address housing and help us to draft a really solid consolidated plan. And then once we have that, we'll come back before August 4th for that final plan to be submitted to HUD in August 15th and looking to start the new contracts with the agencies October 1st. On the next slide, it just has where we noticed for the funding resources where we continue to have the different application processes. We did leave, when we did the technical assistance workshop, we did have that recorded so we can put it on the website so people could go back and have it as a resource as they continue through the actual application process. The next slide talks about the citizen participation plan. Again, we really during that next when we have those 7 meetings, we encourage the public to come out to help us to develop that annual action plan to make sure that we hear from those that it will directly impact. We will reach out to the different nonprofits and ask them to come if they have clients to send the clients because we really want to hear from them at this time because this is the one time that they're able to really give their input to it. On the next slide, it just again, we're asking them what do they think that Tampa's priorities in relation to developing is. We know what we're going in with, what the regulations are, and so during the public meetings, we then outline what the funding sources are, what our restrictions are with those funding sources, and then really try to get creative with those who attend those public meetings. The next slide shows the public survey. That will also be on our website for the entire 30 days. We'll also leave copies here at downtown. We'll have copies at our office. So as people are interested, they can fill out the survey and then we'll leave our information where they can then submit the surveys. If they're not interested in doing the surveys, we're still taking comments and then they'll have an email address as to where they can leave those. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Thank you for this presentation. Can you send us this PowerPoint presentation?
Will do, yes.
Thank you. I was just having a discussion with the Tampa Hillsborough Homeless Initiative. I would have loved to have had this.
Okay.
Please and thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, by the way, so we ought to ask if there's anyone here for that.
Yes, and I do have Ms. Strohmeyer on the line. Is there anybody in the room that would like to comment to this? Ms. Strohmeyer.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hey, I'm glad that this is, they're helping people with AIDS. I just wanted to, my question is, I have several friends, well, 2 in particular, that are struggling to meet their household needs because they have cancer. Why is everything specific to AIDS, and how come we can't extend this to cancer? I have, like I said, 2 friends that cannot work because they have cancer and they need help. So, that's it. So everything, it's about the AIDS and give people housing. We also have obviously a homeless problem. We're trying to work on that down here, but again, we don't want these people that are able-bodied to work. I know people with AIDS and they have great jobs and, in the banking industry and the gym industry. And, again, the people with cancer that can't work because they're doing chemo and radiation and getting surgeries, they don't get the funding like that. So is there any way that we can expand this to include those people with other problems, health issues? That's it.
I'll answer that. So unfortunately, this is a federal funded program, and so the city does not come up with the regulations. This is coming directly from DC, so these are specific. We have to collect documentation to prove that someone has HIV or AIDS to be qualified for this program. So this is not a program that we'd be able to expand.
All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Move to close. Second.
Move to close. Yeah. Motion to close by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Mascotte. All in favor?
Aye. Move the
There's
resolution.
no action for you all to take.
There's
tonight.
no.
This is just to take public comment. This is the first public hearing.
Yeah, I just said it. I said, Move the resolution.
All right, agenda item number 4, file number REZ 21-133.
It's great to be back up here. Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 4, case REZ 21-133. This is a proposed rezone from PD, REZ 18-09, and CI to PD, residential, multifamily, and all CI uses. Now, this location is a number of parcels and addresses. It's encompassed by, to the north, you have 275. To your west side, you have North Dole Mabry running north and south. To your east side, you have North Himes running north and south. And south, you have West Cypress Street running east to west. Before we get started with a presentation by the Planning Commission, I have a statement here that I'd like to read into the record. And to bring to Council's attention, there was a revised staff report issued out this past Tuesday. The original report found the case to be inconsistent in relation to the proposed heights for the project. This being an error in staff's understanding of the current project approvals, and is recognized that given the REZ 18-09 approvals for the project in coordination with a subject application, the requested height of increased height to 300 feet, that the request is consistent now. So therefore, the report has been updated at this time to reflect the correction of being from inconsistent to a consistent overall finding. I'll now pass along to our Planning Commission.
Good evening, St. Thomas with your Planning Commission staff. Okay, so this is located in the West Shore Planning District, and more specifically the West Tampa neighborhood.
Can you zoom out, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
The closest transit stop is located directly in front of the subject site at Dale Mabry Highway and Midtown Drive. McFarland Park is the closest recreational facility and is located 1 mile northeast of the subject site, and the site is located in a level D evacuation zone. Here's an aerial map of the subject site. As Zane was saying, you can see that it is bound by 275 to the north, Dale Mabry Highway to the west, Himes Avenue to the east, and West Cypress Street to the south. The predominant surrounding area is commercial in nature, but as you move east past Himes, you get more residential uses. And here is the adopted future land use map. The colors are kind of skewed because of the hatching over the site, but the entire site is recognized under the RMU 100 future land use designation, which is this more purplish pinkish color. That is the most intensive use outside of the central business district that we have in the comprehensive plan. As you go a little bit farther east, you can see this red color is a CC 35 future land use designation. And then once you start moving out of this Himes-Dale Mabry corridor, you can see that you get some lower intensity uses in the R10 and the R20 in this brown color. The applicant is adding 2 parcels generally northwest of the intersection of North Himes Avenue and West Cypress Street to an existing planned development that was approved in 2018. The subject site is adjacent to Dale Mabry Highway, a transit emphasis corridor that is suitable for intensification. The PD proposes a 2.20 FAR, which is 62% of the intensity anticipated under the regional mixed-use 100 designation. Planning Commission staff finds that the proposed uses and intensity are consistent with the urban development pattern anticipated in this area of the city. Additionally, the comprehensive plan encourages residential, mixed-use, retail, commercial, and other pedestrian-oriented uses along mixed-use corridors to be oriented to the street by placing them towards the front of properties with entries and stoops facing the street. The site plan shows 4 pedestrian connections that are provided to Block I on West Cypress Street and 2 pedestrian connections provided on Block I along North Himes Avenue. The applicant is utilizing a waiver that was approved in REZ 1809 to allow certain buildings to orient towards the sidewalks of internal private streets. While the Planning Commission staff acknowledges there was a previous waiver approved on the site, and a note is provided on the site plan stating that pedestrian connections can be modified, staff strongly encourages the applicant to activate and engage the West Cypress and North Himes corridors during the incremental site plan review process. In conclusion, the proposed development is consistent with the development pattern anticipated under the regional mixed-use 100 designation. It is comparable and compatible with the surrounding development pattern, And furthermore, the request is consistent with the Compact City Forum strategy, which seeks to promote housing densities and promote walking and transit near employment, residential services, and amenities. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions?
Thanks so much, Zane Hussein, Develop Coordination. I'll go ahead and share the overhead view of the site plan here. So looking at the site plan here, you'll see we are proposing, the applicant is proposing a rezone from CI, commercial intensive, and planned development as of REZ 18-09 to PD planned development. This to allow for the development of residential multifamily and all CI uses. The subject site contains 19.5 acres, and the maximum building area proposes 1,869,300 square feet. The site here is known as the Midtown Tampa project. This was approved in 2018 under that PD number REZ 18-09. Also for residential multifamily and all CI uses. The majority of the project has already been developed here. So majority has already been developed in accordance with the Associated Design Book as approved as part of the PD. Development has occurred in the western, northern, central, and northeastern boundary areas of the subject site. There are 2 other additional parcels that have been obtained by the applicant containing a total of 15,580 square feet located on the West Cypress Street. And I'll show you pictures of that in a second. The applicant has also submitted an updated project design guidelines book and signage plan with this PD request as they modified. I'll now go ahead and share the aerial view of the subject site. As you see the subject site outlined here in red, as I talked about, to the north you have 275, west North Del Mabry, east North Himes, and south West Cypress Street, which encompasses the project of all CI and commercial establishments. The building setbacks for the buildings are as follows: 5 feet to the north, 20 feet to the south, 20 feet to the east, and 20 feet to the west. The property has a future land use designation of RMU 100, which allows for a maximum floor area ratio of 3.5 and encourages mixed-use development. The proposed floor area ratio for this project is 2.20. The proposed maximum building height, CNI, are for a proposed 300 feet in height and 260 feet for the remaining project area. This project has multiple points of entry, as I'll show you again on the site plan. You have 2 points of access here on North Himes, 1 point of access here on West Cypress, and a point of access here on North Del Mabry. As I'll show you pictures, you have your REI and also Whole Foods all there on the west portion. Coming to the elevations provided by the developer and applicant. Let's see what's being proposed.
Mr. Hussein?
Yes, sir.
From what direction is that being viewed?
This is I, so this would be, you would have North Himes running north and south.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. As you would see the elevations provided here, you'll see West Cypress running east to west. You have your Whole Foods here. You have entrance into the Midtown area, and then you have C&I also along West Cypress and along North Himes. Coming down here, you'll see the proposed elevations. You're here at the intersection of North Himes and West Cypress. You'll see the 2 proposed 300 feet buildings. As I went out to the site, I'll show you the pictures I took of the current site. Wonderful. I am right here in the parking lot of Whole Foods. On the west side, running north and south, you'll have North Del Mabry. I am here at the intersection of North Himes and West Cypress. So I'm on the southeastern portion here as you look to the site of Midtown. There's another view of the site from the intersection of North Himes, West Cypress, as you see Midtown. Looking down West Cypress, you'll see you have commercial establishments along the south of it. Midtown's right here. I am at the entrance and exit of Midtown here on the east portion. You can look north and south on North Himes, as you'll have commercial running north and south. As I stood on the grassy field here on the northeast portion of Midtown, you'll see the site. Again, North Himes running north and south. You'll have commercial establishments across the street on the eastern portion. One of the entrances of Midtown, I took pictures of the current site. You have a hotel there. To the south, you'll have two commercial establishments I took pictures of right below. This is one of the entrances on West Cypress Street, running east to west, Midtown sign. As I went to the northwest portion of the site, I'll take a picture of the parking garage on the northwest portion. And if you look, as I turn my back and turned around, you'll see a retention pond and 275 running east to west to the north. Development Coordination has found this project to be consistent with the Land Development Code. If approved by City Council, the applicant will need to make changes as per the revised sheet on the staff report. I'm here for any questions if needed.
Any questions?
No, but I can tell you one thing. That site is the one that the old Ayers Diners was moved to that site many years ago. When they closed the Ayers Diners, they moved it there, and it never did very well.
I ate there once.
That's why they do very well.
Is that the one, is that the one that was on Kennedy?
No, that was the one on Dale Mabry.
Dale Mabry.
What was the one on Kennedy called? Do you remember that one?
Ayers Diners is the guy who was cooking, the guy named Joe Cheeseburger.
But there was one by UT, right? Wasn't
Yeah,
there?
there was multiple heirs. and
Okay, okay.
Elvis ate at the one on Florida.
All right, let's bring it back in. Let's bring it back in. Any questions for staff? Petitioner.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, who's apparently not here, and members of council.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Please state your name.
My name is Mark Bentley, 401 East Jackson Street, Tampa 33602. I've been sworn. I represent the developers and owners of the project known as Midtown. Zane did a great job in getting into some of the details about the project, but it's roughly 19.5 acres. And it's about 80% complete in terms of land area, but for two parcels called I and C. And Mr. Miranda, I think you were with me when we rezoned this in 1999, and the diner was there. It was on the corner. It was on the corner of Himes and Cypress, for the record. But the catalyst for the modification of the zoning tonight is the acquisition of two parcels that consist of roughly 15,500 square feet. These parcels were remnants from the widening of Cypress Street through eminent domain by the city of Tampa. So our client was kind of in a holding pattern in terms of doing anything on Cypress on the east side till we acquired those 2 parcels. The application does not seek any increase in intensity. As the one gentleman indicated, the floor area ratio for the project at this point in time is 2.2, and that's not going to change. It would allow up to 3.5 FAR under the RMU 100 category that relates to the property. That being said, there would be a surplus if we wanted to go into this square footage. There's an extra 1.1 million square feet that the client had no need for. So that's not what we're doing tonight. What I'd like to show you on the overhead, I'm pointing to parcel I, and then this is C. Here is the site plan. It shows I and C, and here are the 2 parcels that I mentioned that our client obtained within the last 2 years. So they're bringing those into the project. And here's a pretty good aerial showing the extent of development at this point in time. It's roughly, like I said, 80%. And here's I and here's C again. So what this application would accomplish is allow the design and construction of parcel I, which will be mixed use, which has been in a holding pattern subject to acquisition of those 2 parcels. It will allow building adjustments for parcel C. The entitlements will not change for parcel C from the existing approved plan. It also allow minor revisions to the project's design book guidelines and the master sign plan. As Zane indicated, all agencies have found the project consistent, which is pretty unusual for a project of this complexity and magnitude. And we're not seeking any waivers, which is pretty unusual as well. The Planning Commission has found the project to be, or the application to be consistent with the comp plan and compatible with the surrounding area. Hopefully you received a letter in support from the West Shore Alliance. I received a copy that was directed to you all. And we agree to make all site plan modifications as requested by staff in the staff report. Accordingly, we respectfully request council's approval. I'm here to answer any questions you have.
Any comments or questions? Excuse me, Councilman Hurtak.
I believe I heard the Planning Commission talked about activating the street along Cypress.
Yeah, what we did, we worked with urban design. If you see, we have a design guideline book, and what we did, and there's certain areas where there's parking where you don't activate it. So what we negotiated with urban design essentially is to allow just a lot of outdoor space, and because there's no store frontage there, but we put a lot of benches and landscape, things like that. It's really on Cypress, and it's just a minor stretch, okay? And then when you have the retail, for example, so Ms. Hurtak, Councilwoman Hurtak, excuse me. It's a little stretch right here where there's parking deck. So obviously you don't have any direct access to it. But when you come around the corner here, the bottom of I is going to be retail. I think this is slated for 22,000 square feet of retail. There'll be activation there where there'll be direct access into these stores here. So, you know, that's the one little hiccup that you can't avoid, you know, with these parking decks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Is there anybody here that would like to make public comment on this? And I see no one online.
That is correct. No registered speakers.
Motion to close by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Aye. Councilman Vieira.
Yes, sir. I read an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity of 3615 and 3711 West Cypress Street, 1150, 1152, and 1160 Assembly Drive, 3615 Bromley Grand Avenue, 3645, 3650, 3657, 3701, 3720, and 3740 Midtown Drive, 1011, 1130, 3615, and 3730 Gramercy Lane, and folio numbers 111-791.0100, comma 111-027.0044, comma 111-027.0016, comma 111-027.0042, comma 111-027.0076, comma 111-027.0092, and 111-027.0096 in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zone district classification, PD plan development, CI commercial intensive, to PD plan development, residential multifamily, and all CI uses, providing an effective date.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call vote.
Viera.
Yes.
Goode.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Hurtak.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
And Cedro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on July 14, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. Have a great evening. Take care.
Agenda item number 5, file number REZ 22-24.
Thanks so much, sir. Zain Hussein, Development Coordination, agenda item number 5, case REZ 22-24. This is for the location at 4111 West San Carlos Street from RS 75 to PD. Now I want to clear for the record, it is 2 PD planned development residential single family detached, not attached. So 2 residential single family detached. I'll now pass along to our planning commission.
Same Thomas with your planning commission. I have been sworn. So this is located in the South Tampa Planning District, and more specifically the Palmisia West neighborhood. The closest transit stop is 0.4 miles east of the subject site at the intersection of West San Carlos and South Del Mabry Highway. And the closest recreational facility is within 1/4 of a mile south of the subject site, and the site is located within evacuation zone B. Here is an aerial of the subject site. The area is predominantly single-family detached units. It is within 1/4 of a mile of Henderson Boulevard. You can kind of see it up in the corner here. So if you are right over here, then you meet Henderson Boulevard right there. And then additionally, it's also within 1/2 of a mile to the east over here to Del Mabry Highway. Both Henderson and Del Mabry Highway both have light commercial uses on them. So it is in quite a walkable area considering where it is located. Here is a map of the future land use designations. The site is under the residential 6 future land use designation, and the surrounding area is predominantly residential 6 as well. As you get over to the Henderson Boulevard corridor though, you can see that CMU 35 category. And then over here where this blue category is, that is a public, semi-public. Those are public schools, or a private school and 2 public schools, and I believe a public recreational facility. This portion of West San Carlos Street between South Lois Avenue and South Clark Avenue, excluding the subject site, has an existing density of 4.56 units per acre. And the portion of South Cameron Avenue between West San Miguel Street and West San Carlos Street, excluding the subject site, has an existing density of 4.51 units per acre. The request would allow for 2 single-family detached residential units at an overall density of 5.71 units per acre, which is consistent with the density anticipated under the residential 6 future land use designation. The proposed request would allow for a development that is similar in form, height, scale to the surrounding residential uses on this portion of West San Carlos Street and South Cameron Avenue. The proposed rezoning supports many of the policies in the comprehensive plan as it relates to housing the city's population. The Tampa Comprehensive Plan encourages new housing on vacant and underutilized land to ensure an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future populations. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. I believe I accidentally handed my staff report also, the highlighted version. Does anyone have it up there?
No.
Staff report, not the Planning Commission report.
The one that's asking the bottom, staff identified that 10% starts off that way. Is this?
Thank you so much. Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 5, we have proposed rezoning from RS 75, residential single-family 75, to PD, residential single-family detached, for the location at 4111 West San Carlos Street. Now, this is for the development of the property with 2 residential single-family detached uses. This is at the intersection of South Cameron Avenue and also West San Carlos Street. The properties to the north, south, east, and west are all zoned RS 75. All these lots are developed with residential, single-family residential uses. There's a total of 4 parking spaces that are required, and the applicant is providing 9 parking spaces. Vehicular access comes from South Cameron Avenue for dwelling 2, and for dwelling 1, West San Carlos Street. Overall, staff found this consistent with the Land Development Code. Now, there is a revision sheet for the applicant to please make revisions of. Site plans were dropped off to City Council last Thursday. I'm here for any questions if needed.
Any comments or questions? Petitioner?
Good evening, everyone. Travis Hills, 5620 East Fowler Avenue, Suite 4, Temple Terrace. Let's see here. Just want to describe the project for you this evening, let you know what we're requesting. The project, the proposed development is to divide the existing property into 2 lots as is originally platted. The overall objective is to construct 1 single-family residence per lot, being approximately 55 by 139 deep. We're proposing to connect to City of Tampa utilities as is available. Lots, as mentioned, will access Cameron Street from the infill lot, and then there's a corner lot that will access both Cameron on one side and San Carlos on the south. So within the request, we're asking for the PD that will allow for the 2 lots. The principal uses are permitted within that RS 75 zoning that exists. Future land use that's established is R6, which basically, when you do the math, turns back into 2 units being allowed, R6 per acre. We got 0.35, so when we do the calculations, it goes back to the 2 units, which is consistent with what we're requesting. There are no waivers being requested. Our goals are conservative, and it fits within the regulations as written. So we've had a few comments that we've responded to from staff. I think the only one that had any extensive conversation was about protection of an off-site tree and impact to its roots, which I think that we were successful in coming to the understanding that we would apply the proper measures as described in the City of Tampa Tree and Landscape Tech Manual that specifies how to do work within a protected root zone. Believe that our development is compatible with the community in terms of its use as single family, as Zane already noted. Even in terms of the type of product that we're proposing is consistent with what you see in the community. It's design, elevations, and so forth, we believe to be of value and benefit, and in line with what's going on in that particular area. So in conclusion, we ask you to consider our case and grant our request. Thank you for listening and available for any questions that you might have.
Before we go into questions, Mr. Hussein.
Thank you so much. Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. I apologize, my pictures actually were underneath my binder. So I would like to, for the record, show you the location of the parcels. It's here outlined in red. As you see around it, you'll have all residential single-family uses. I would like to give to your attention the consistency map about compatibility here. So staff identified that 10% of the lots in the studied area, 60% of the subject block, 20% of the block of West San Carlos Street, and 50% of the block face are all with lots of 59.99 feet or less. This being said, staff finds the proposed request for rezoning to be consistent with the existing development pattern of the adjacent area, overall area, and block face. I'd like to point to your attention the proposed site plan, as I talked about the 2 points of entrance. And I'd like to show you the elevations provided by the applicant. South elevation. North elevation. East elevation. And as I went out to the site, see the proposed lot, running north to south. Proposed site, you'll see the public notice sign. You'll see that intersection of South Cameron and San Carlos Street, residential single-family homes. Also adjacent to the site, you'll see down the street, you'll have residential single-family homes. And also across the street, you'll see residential single-family homes. Staff has found this consistent. Site plans were turned in to the City Council last week. I'm here for any questions if needed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Petitioner. Any questions for the petitioner? Is there anyone in chambers who would like to make public comment on item agenda number 5, REZ 22-24? You're asking that these be placed into the record?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, and I gave a copy to the clerk, and I believe Ms. Bennett has gotten the permission of 2 other persons to add a couple minutes to her presentation. Donna Van Name there, and Larry Belcher. Okay.
Now she has a total of 5.
5.
Hi, my name's Carol Ann Bennett. I'm a lifelong resident of South Tampa. I live in Virginia Park, which directly abuts Palmisia West. Recently, you guys had something come before you that was the first time it came before the city. An apartment complex was developed, and the elementary school did not have capacity for it. So that apartment complex had to pay a proportionate share of over $191,000 because they didn't have enough spots for 7 projected students for that elementary school. And that was the first time this has happened to the city. This happens in the county a lot. It was the first time you guys have seen something like that. So in the 4 years that I've been looking at staff reports, usually there's a concurrency report, and I didn't see one in this staff report. But I brought one with me from, this is over a year old. It was for a beach park rezoning. And you'll see that not just elementary, but middle school and high school, they're all over 103%, 109%, 102%. Now, these people are probably going to go to Dale Mabry instead of Grady, but Dale Mabry's also over, so, but I don't have the statistics. So proportionate share that they should be paying should be $27,000 per student just for the elementary school. I assume it's more, because this is for capital improvement, I assume it's more for the middle and the high school. I see nothing in here about them paying their proportionate share, even though their school district is over capacity, and we have the identical situation we had with MAA paying their proportionate share. I'd also like to point out that because Plant High School is so over capacity, you recently had a rezoning from Beach Park, where there was an area in Beach Park that has always been industrial or commercial, and it's converting to residential. So because they knew that the schools were over capacity, they went ahead and zoned that area out of the Plant District into the Jefferson District, which has room in it. This is not an industrial area where you can just preemptively let people know ahead of time what district they're going to be in. This is in the middle of a district. In 2017, part of Plant's district had to be redrawn because they were over capacity. You can see they're over capacity again. I know that you guys aren't the school board and you don't have control over schools, but you have control over density. And if the density is increased in the middle of a school district, they're going to have to redraw their lines. They're already over capacity. At that same Beach Park rezoning, you heard 2 students from Plant High School talk about how there's not enough room in the cafeteria for the different lunch shifts. When they go to lunch, they have to find some place to sit on the lawn, outside the cafeteria. They can't even get them all in the cafeteria. So if you continue to increase the density for these school districts, they're going to have to redraw the lines. And I would advise you now that if you plan on doing that, I would suggest you buy some stock in torches and pitchforks, because their sales are going to go way up. Those people are going to lose their mind if they get drawn out of their district. My sister decided she wanted her kids to go to Gaither High School when they were in preschool. So they bought a piece of land, built a house while their children were in preschool because they wanted to go to Gaither. Parents do that all over the city. The people who bought in this district did that. They have property rights. And I'm really interested in the proportionate share. I think that's overlooked because overlooked because it's new. I'd also like to point out in the Municipal Code, Section 2711, which you have in front of you, creation of new lots, reduction of lots, blah, blah, blah. It says, no division or reconfiguration, changing it from one street to another, may occur which is patently inconsistent with the existing lot development pattern in a radius of 1,320 feet, which is a quarter mile. New created lots must maintain the front orientation and historical precedent pattern of parcel configuration in the neighborhood. Lots of record may not be reconfigured in conflict with the established pattern of lots. So it's saying you have to go out 1,320 feet to determine the pattern of the neighborhood. He told you, he gave you I didn't print it in color. 90% of the houses in that district are big lots, not little lots. Nowhere in the plan does it say block face. And in this, it says block face is 2 houses. Your neighborhood is 2 houses? Nowhere in the plan. Show me where it says block face. The 1,320 feet, it's 90%. That's the character, that's the plan. If you don't like the zoning of the neighborhood, change it. But spot zoning, zoning by exception, is the poorest way to govern. Please don't do it. Please deny this. Thank you.
Thank you. We have other people that are wanting to speak. Thank you.
My name is Michael McNabb, 2404 South Clark Avenue, Tampa 33629. I'm here to address you and thank you for giving me the opportunity. I am the president of the Palmisia West Neighborhood Association, and I'm also a resident that's within eyesight of this property. And I'm here to represent our members and our neighbors.
So, excuse me, I apologize. You are speaking on behalf of your association?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I am the president of that association. I don't want to go back and use your time and my time for what I put in the record in my letter to you. I think it's pretty explanatory of what our feeling is about this lot splitting. I did want to come here and speak because some of the neighbors that I spoke to that live adjacent to this don't know how to Zoom. Some of them are here to speak, and some, one lady asked me if would she have to have a computer to Zoom. So I said, yes, you would. So I'm here to speak about this. As you know, Palmisia West is an older established neighborhood in South Tampa. It's a mix of 50s homes and a number of brand new homes, and we're happy with that. It is in the plant district, so it's exploding, and land values are just through the roof right now of people that want to move into that neighborhood for the schools and other reasons. Properties have become very desirable. All of the neighbors that I was able to reach and spoke to are in opposition to this rezoning. They're fine with one large house on one large lot, like many of our houses, but they don't want to split it into two little lots with big houses on it. And their expectation is that you will uphold our RS 75 rezoning and zone it the way it should be. This is really simple. It's just about splitting one large lot into two lots so two enormous houses can be built on it. Each house is about 5,700 square feet under roof, and there's two houses that would face the two streets. I'm not aware of any house of the 600 in our neighborhood that are 5,700 square feet. I don't think there's any that big. Certainly not on 50 or 55-foot lots. And there's maybe a dozen 50-foot lots in the neighborhood, mostly along the commercial corridors, but most of the lots although they were plotted as 50-foot, are much larger than that. Some people have two lots even that their houses are on. There's 8 or 10 houses currently under construction in our neighborhood. They're all being built on larger lots that people bought, and none of them resulted in a lot split. There's no reason for this, and there's no hardship that I'm aware of. This is strictly an economic thing. I just am here to ask you to have them build one house on one lot like everybody else does that buys in the neighborhood, and uphold our RS 75 zoning, which you always have since 1978 when it was put in. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Fred Farias, 2402 South Cameron. I own the house just south of the proposed lot construction. Originally, there's one house on the lot, and from my observation over the years, in that one house, there's been 8 to 10 people coming and going in one house. There's been cars in and out. There's been police activity at the house. It's a good-sized lot, and I feel like one good-sized house would suffice there. I don't think that our neighborhood could withstand 5,700 square foot homes in that lot, 2 of them. I observed about 4 blocks down, they built a new home on a decent-sized lot, and we've noticed that in that home, there's 8 vehicles in that home. They must be working remote, or nobody works, but there's 8 vehicles, and they're parked all along the streets. On their neighbor to their east, they have the yard is eroded because they park half on the street and half in the yard. And if you look out from that house, their 8 cars are parked in front, to the right, to the left. They have a 2-car garage. 1 car is in the garage, maybe. I don't think our neighborhood could stand the density that these 2 huge homes would provide. There's no telling how many people would live in a 5,700 square foot house. It could be 2, it could be 10. But from what I've seen in the past of this location It was really frightening to live there and watch what goes on in and out, people, cars, just really opposed to the two houses on that one lot. I think one house, one nice home on that one nice lot would be sufficient for our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cindy Farias. I live across the street to the south of this lot. I too am very concerned about what is going on. I really am concerned about the fact of splitting a lot because it does add twice as much possibility for inhabitants, even if it was a regular size house. But these are 5,700 square feet houses. And as my husband said, the owner of this property used to have one house on this property, and there were comings and goings of dozens of people all the time, many times where the police had to be involved. And my concern is, one thing I'm not is a public speaker, so excuse me. I have notes. I moved into this neighborhood because you drive into it and you have a sense of serenity. It's a beautiful neighborhood where families can walk their children and their dogs and feel very comfortable there. The density is not bad, as you find in many other areas of Tampa. I am concerned that splitting a lot any place in our Palmisia West area would enable that to be done again, and soon we would have that overgrowth that we are trying to avoid. You all, each and every one of you, are placed in a very important and wonderful position of protecting the neighborhoods in the city of Tampa. And I appreciate the work that you do. We came before you years ago because they were trying to split the property on the other across the street to the west of us. And you listened and you held our ground and allowed only one house to be built there. I ask that you do that again in order to preserve our neighborhood where we enjoy the community feel and a sense of safety. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm a homeowner, Joanne Mcnabb. I live within 4 houses of the property at 2404 South Clark Avenue, Tampa. I have looked over the variance requests for the property at 4111 San Carlos. I was very surprised to see that the Development Review and Compliance staff found this variance to be consistent with regulations, as I would like to point out some inconsistencies. First, this variance cannot be consistent since there are no split lots in our small neighborhood. We have a zoning regulation, and we have always tried to keep to that consistently for our neighborhood. Also, this variance proposes to change orientation on one of the lots, which is also inconsistent. Second, there is nothing consistent with allowing 9 parking spaces at the variance location. There are no homes in our neighborhood that have paved or approved parking spaces for that many vehicles. Even the commercial ventures around our neighborhood don't have very many more parking spaces than that. It just doesn't seem right that a single family dwellings need to have that many parking spaces and still be consistent with the neighborhood. Third, it doesn't seem consistent with the neighborhood to permit this size footprint of 2 structures. There are no other under roof square footages similar to this in our neighborhood, let alone 2 on the one size lot. This is South Tampa. We do have drainage issues. The less percolating surfaces we have, the more flooding we have. The homes in our neighborhood, even the new larger homes being built, have yards and trees. Splitting this lot and reducing setbacks by a variance does not allow for a significant yard at this address at all. Everyone wants to move into South Tampa, Palmisia West. When they come into our neighborhood, they comment on the trees, the mature trees, the beautiful big yards. And then someone comes in and tries to do something like this, and it just takes away from what is our neighborhood. It is kind of curious to me that a group of a few people can make a decision of this magnitude that affects a whole established neighborhood, one that none of you live in. I know you have the authority to approve this variance. However, you also have the authority to not approve it. And I hope you will consider all the reasons that have been mentioned here and vote to not allow this variance to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other person in this chamber that wants to speak to this agenda item? We have Miss Gretchen Cawthron on the line.
No, we only have Scott Weaver and Lori McHen.
Mr. Weaver, are you here? Mr. Weaver, are you online?
Mr. Weaver is online. He just needs to unmute himself and turn on his video.
Yes, I'm here.
I need to see you on video, please. Your video is on, but I can't see you.
I don't know why. It says my webcam is on.
There you are.
All right, thank you. You can see me?
I can see some of you, but I can't see your face. There you go. Please, proceed. You need to be sworn in. Can you raise your right hand to be sworn in?
Yes.
And Lori, can you please raise your right
Oh,
hand?
ma'am, Miss Lori, can you do yours too, please? Thank you.
Do you swear or affirm you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed, sir.
Yeah, so I'm here to speak against the rezoning. We moved to the South Tampa community because it's a beautiful neighborhood, and I'm against splitting properties because our schools are overcrowded, our streets are overused. Many of our streets, including mine on San Miguel, 4107 San Miguel, it's in very poor condition. And we want to maintain the South Tampa community so that it's very family oriented. I think if we split this property, then of course many people today are just wanting to make a buck off of any property. So once this begins, I think it'll just continue to many other properties and eventually just ruin the family community that we moved into 11 years ago and we enjoy. We have a very tight-knit community with our neighbors. It's like a family atmosphere. And I think if we split this property, then it's just gonna lead to overcrowdedness. It already takes long enough to, travel north on Lois or West Shore. And I think this is just gonna definitely worsen the community. And these two houses, they're so large, I think it's ridiculous to have 5,700 square foot, two houses put on one property, or that is currently one property. And I think if just, reality is they're gonna be multi-family homes and it's just gonna lead to a lot of negative situations here in Palmisia West. And that's all I have to say. I think you all will make the best decision, and that's the reason why, we have voted for you and support you in office.
Ms. McMahon. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
My name is Lori McMahon. I live at 2306 South Cameron, which is adjacent to the 4111 West Carlos Street that is requesting to be rezoned. And the gentleman referenced off-site tree. I believe that would be the tree in our backyard that we've been here for 35 years. And it's a oak tree that I wouldn't want to see anything happen to. And I'm certain they already hacked it once. I'm sure they'll hack it again on their side. And I think that the construction probably would affect the roots. I'm opposed to the request. This request would not be a fit for our neighborhood. My concern is this is a permanent zone change, and this change would affect drainage. Flooding is a concern. We have the creek, which is just one block up, which the city has spent lots of money to help with the flooding from West Shore. And if we just put a whole bunch more concrete into that green space, that definitely is going to make an effect for drainage and flooding. I would like to repeat, I am opposed to the change, and it would not be beneficial to the neighborhood in any way. I appreciate you taking the time to listen.
Thank you. There's no one else online?
No.
Thank you. Petitioner, it's your time for rebuttal if you have any.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I want to first start by saying that, you know, I do understand, I truly empathize with anyone's concerned about what I've heard mention about a sense of safety. I've heard mention of family community. I've heard lots of things that, I even heard flooding as a concern. I think that probably all of South Tampa qualifies for that. So, you know, it's always a good thing, in my opinion, to empathize with us as a community and seek to offer some sense of understanding. So I want to address the fact of it was said about the property and how it was conducted prior to now. Well, that property's been rental for a while. The owner has rented that property. So at this time, these type of homes are not, as it was inferred by someone, going to become multi-family homes. They're not building multi-million-dollar homes to rent out or have multiple folks living in them. This is their family home. These are people who own homes in this community already. They're already residents in other places. They're looking to come back and live on their property in nice homes, just like all the other nice homes in the area. And yes, they are part of this community, these property owners. They have families, and they are a family. When it comes to schools, and I know that this is not school impact, and that is probably not your jurisdiction, but they're part of that community. Their children go to schools, private schools, Academy of Holy Names, and other schools, and they understand the same concerns that everyone who has expressed concerns, because they are part of this community. As it pertains to the assertion that there's a lot split that is extraordinary, well, the actual property, when you go to the property appraiser's office, shows the line that we're trying to reestablish that has always been there. In fact, this is Lot 7 and Lot 10. Those lots have been platted, I don't know how long, but they've always been there. So we're not creating new lots. We're simply trying to reclaim what already was. And then for even further evidence of this.
Lot 7 and 10?
Lot 7 and 10 are the two lots that we're speaking of. We're only reestablishing the original lots. It's right on the survey. And also, as further evidence, directly adjacent on the property line to the east, the exact verbatim development exists. One was built in 2019 on the corner, has two accesses just like what we're proposing. One access to one roadway and another access to the other, which most people would take advantage of a corner lot. Same we're trying to do. How do we come up with 9 spaces? Because you have 2 in the garage, 2 parked in the front, that's 4, times 2, that's 8. And for the big frontage on the south side, we put a circular drive, just because it's wide. Standard corner lot development. And so The one has been developed on the corner directly next door, and one is under construction as we speak. So this is not some old idea or some radical idea. This is doing what exactly is happening right now that has been approved by the city. And we have not asked for any waivers. Our footprint fits within the setbacks. We haven't asked for, oh, give us closer to the road, closer to the sides, nothing. We're falling within the standard setbacks of the zoning requirement. The square footage also, it's not as big as they say because that's total under roof. So that's including garage, that's including covered lanais, that's including porches. There are other big houses in the area. It's not as much of a stretch. I understand though how it is. I've been involved in community efforts, and we all know what NIMBY means, not in my backyard, and I get it. But we are a community, and we need to serve all the members of our community, not just the ones who propose that their values matter more than a property owner.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Question for staff. Zane? Sir? When I look at the photo, I see on South Cameron and San Carlos, and I look at San Miguel Street and South Clark. I'm looking at the character of the neighborhood. Then when I look at, again, on maybe look at if I'm going north on the southeast corner and the possibly southeast corner and the northeast corner, I see the same thing. Am I looking at something different, sir?
No, sir. I actually just would like to bring your attention to the compatibility map to see, as I'm showing here. So you see the subject parcel here in red. And as you see here, anything blue around it, or yellow or red, is 50 feet or more. So you see the compatibility. You see across the street, you have red. You see across the street, you have red, you have yellow, which is over 50, 60. So that's a big reason why staff found it overall consistent due to the comparable neighborhood. You have, this is from our GIS and mapping team, so this is accurate.
And the reason I asked that, that's why I went to the map, to look at the compatibility of the neighborhood. Sir? And when I look at that, what I'm seeing is what's existing already. Especially on that particular block right there, 1, 2, 3, 4, within that radius right there. Now, more to the east here, I see compatibility there. Mm-hmm. But I look in the middle right here, it looks to be compatible.
You have one compatibility. And then subject blocks, 60% of the lots are 59.9 feet or less. So overall, you would find compatibility.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
The one thing before you vote, I did want to point out, school concurrency is determined at the time of site plan or permitting approval, not at the time of rezoning, so that's not something that we typically consider at this time. So if there is a prop share issue, that would be determined later on in the process. So I just want to make sure you all were aware of that. So.
A motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Vieira. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilman Maniscalco.
I'm going to make a motion to deny. Is that right? All right.
Your prerogative.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion. I move to deny REZ 22-24 for the property located at 4111 West San Carlos Street from RS75 to PD due to the failure of the applicant to meet its burden of proof to provide competent substantial evidence that the development as conditioned and shown on the site plan is consistent with the comprehensive plan and city code. I see failure to comply with applicable goals, objectives, and policies in the comprehensive plan. While the proposed rezoning may be allowed for consideration under the existing future land use category, and the planning commission staff concluded that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the development pattern anticipated under the residential 6 future land use category, I find that the proposed rezoning will result in lot widths that are not appropriate given the surrounding pattern of development in RS 75 zoning. Also, the failure to comply with Land Development Code Section 27-136, the proposed development as shown on the site plan does not promote or encourage development that is appropriate in location, character, and compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood, and the proposed use does not promote the efficient and sustainable use of land and infrastructure. I see that more than 90% are more than 60 feet, 60 feet or more, 90% of those in this area, in this neighborhood. Also, in regards to the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, Land Use Policy 9.3.8, the city shall assess the potential positive and negative impacts of residential development projects on the physical development pattern and the character of the surrounding area. Also, Land Use Policy 9.5.1 to protect low-density single-family areas. Also, Land Use Policy 9.5.2, maintain the character of single-family residential areas. And I will end with Land Use Policy 9.5.4, maintain the current density and character of existing single-family areas. I already mentioned that 90% plus are 60 feet or more, and I will stop there. Thank you.
We have a motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Carlson. Any further discussion?
If I may, and you know, this is one that I'm very torn on in many ways. I hear the discussions of the neighborhood, and I think there's a lot of points that are very sympathetic. But and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, that whenever I look at approving or denying something like this, I always say that we have a stool, and we got to see what kind of legs are going to be on that stool to support us sitting on that stool. And when I see this, we have a good report from the Planning Commission. I believe, city consistent, correct? That's what I thought, and I didn't mean to, in effect, reopen that. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. But on something like this, there's policy issues here, et cetera, but I just don't see the legs on that stool. I just don't have to vote my conscience on that. So I appreciate the motion, but I will be respectfully voting no. Thank you.
Councilman Goods.
You know, everyone knows I'm a neighborhood guy through and through. And I look at all avenues to protect neighborhoods and the safety of neighborhoods. And sometimes I say, hey, I vote away and say, let them sue us or whatever. But on this one here, when I look at the map, the compatibility just shows consistency of the area. I just don't see how I could, in a good conscience, you know, vote for the current motion on the floor. So I'll be voting no on that. I can't vote at this time, and I'm sorry for the neighbors, but for this one here, I just can't do it.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
I have to agree with council members Vieira and Goods on this, just because of the blockness. And if you look at the surrounding areas, there really are a lot of much smaller lots. I'm not seeing I know it says RS 75, but I'm not seeing how any of these lot frontage is 75. There are 2 houses being built right behind it. I understand the neighbors' concerns. I truly do. Having more density can be, the prospect of changing neighborhood is not, it can be scary, but in this particular block, it seems perfectly reasonable to do this.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been, it's like being caught in a swamp and you don't know how to get out or get in. But as looking at the map and looking at the colors and looking at the amount of lots and so forth, and I know the neighborhood, people have been there 30 and 40 years, and some of them I know personally. But that's not the reason that I should vote one way or the other. I have to vote on what I see and what I hear. And this has no waivers. There are areas like that on this block, just 3 lots to the, I guess, to the north of this, in the same block, are all in the same category, unless I'm looking at this thing incorrectly. So these lots then are going to be, let's see here, 5,000 some feet away. The houses are going to be 5,700 feet away, and as far as size, but the living quarters of it are not 5,700. The garage is going to be under, as I understand it, which has nothing to do with the bearing of the zoning. But it's hard for me to vote yes when I see so many things here that I'm propelled by what I see to vote no against the motion on the floor.
Any other further discussion? We have a motion on the floor, Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Carlson. Roll call vote.
Goode.
No.
Miranda.
No.
Hurtak.
No.
Carlson.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Viera.
No.
And Citro.
No.
Motion failed with Goode, Miranda, Hurtak, Viera, and Citro voting no.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
File number REZ 22-24, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance rezoning the property in the general vicinity of 4111 West San Carlos Street in the city of Tampa, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification RS 75 residential single family to PD planned development residential single family attached, providing an effective date. I move that this ordinance and direct revisions shown on the revision sheet be made as the applicant has met its burden of proof to provide competent and substantial evidence that the development as conditioned and shown on the site plan is consistent with the comprehensive plan and city code. I also adopt the findings and reasonings of the Planning Commission and city staff reports. Based on competent and substantial evidence found in staff reports, in compliance with applicable goals and objectives and policies in the comprehensive plan, to allow for compatible development within an area that is planned for a development pattern of up to 6 dwelling units per acre consistent with land use policies 9.3.8, 9.5.1, and 9.5.3. The proposed rezoning is consistent with land use policy 9.2.1 and housing policy 1.3.4, which encourage new housing on vacant or underutilized land to ensure that an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future populations, and compliance with Land Development Code Section 27-136. Proposed development as shown on the site plan promotes or encourages development that is appropriate in location, character, and compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood. Proposed use promotes the efficient and sustainable use of land and infrastructure, and the proposed development seeks no waivers. And although the lot widths will each be 48 feet, 55 feet, this de minimis reduction in lot width will not have an adverse impact on the surrounding single-family neighborhood.
We have a motion made by Councilwoman Hurtak, seconded by Councilman Vieira. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Miranda.
Yes.
Hurtak.
Yes.
Carlson.
No.
Maniscalco.
No.
Viera.
Yes.
Goode.
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried with Carlson and Maniscalco voting no. Second reading and adoption will be held on July 14, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Agenda item 7, file number SU 22-01.
Thank you so much, sir. Zain Hussein, Development Coordination. Agenda item number 7, case SU 2201. This is being presented for first reading consideration. This is for a special use 2 permit for a daycare in an RS60 residential single-family zoning district at the locations 4302 West Euclid Avenue and 4221 Bay Villa Avenue. And I'll pass it along to Sam Thomas from the Planning Commission.
Good evening again. Sam Thomas with your Planning Commission staff. This is located in the South Tampa Planning District, and more specifically the Fair Oaks Manhattan Manor neighborhood. The closest transit stop is 1 block west of the subject site on South Manhattan Avenue, and the closest recreational facility is located 1 mile south of the subject site, and the site is located within a Level A evacuation zone. Here's an aerial map of the subject site. The area along Henderson Boulevard, or South Manhattan Avenue over here, is mainly commercial in character. As you move to the east and north, you have single-family detached residential units. To the south here, you have, what is this? The Manhattan Center, which is supposed to be converted into a new magnet school. And then just over to the southwest here is the Jan Platt Public Library. Here's a map of the adopted future land use. The site is recognized under the R10 designation, and the surrounding area is primarily recognized under the same R10 residential designation. The community mixed use 35 is along the South Manhattan corridor here. And then down here to the south where the blue is the school that I previously mentioned that is being constructed. The applicant is seeking approval to expand an existing daycare by converting an existing single-family detached resident adjacent to the daycare. Daycares can be considered within the residential 10 future land use designation through a special use 2 approval. The request is below the FAR allowed under the residential 10 designation. The Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found the expansion of the proposed daycare compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The applicant is providing a sidewalk connection along West Bay Villa Avenue, which is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And additionally, there are compatible surrounding public uses nearby the subject site. The comprehensive plan promotes co-location of community facilities that support the neighborhood, and the expansion of the daycare will continue to support and provide services for the Fair Oaks Manhattan neighborhood. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Zane Hussein, Development Coordination, case SU 22-01. There are no waivers being requested. I will go ahead and share the site plan. Let me zoom in for you. As you can see, the existing daycare and the residential single-family home here to the south. The request is for a daycare use. The property contains a total lot area of approximately 43,496 square feet, or 0.99 acres. That currently has that daycare on the top and the residential single family to the south. This was approved under SU 17-15. The total building area is 8,083 square feet. There will be an estimated 150 to 190 students at the daycare. Access to the site comes from Hubert Avenue and West Bay Villa Avenue. Proposed setbacks are 25 feet in the front, 7 on the sides, and 20 on the rear. I'll go share my aerial. As you see the site outlined here in red. To the north, you'll have residential single-family use, zoned RS60. To the west, you have a Jan Platt library, and also you have CG zoning north and south along South Manhattan Avenue, as I'll show you pictures in a few minutes. You'll have to the east, you have more residential single-family uses, zoned RS60. And to the south, quite recently, actually, through City Council, it was approved to be a school to the south, as I'll show you in pictures to come. The proposed request requires 13 parking spaces, and a total of 18 parking spaces are being provided. The maximum building height would be 25 feet in height. Future land use is R10, and the property is in the South Tampa Planning District. I'll now share the elevations provided by the applicant. All right. As you see here, you'll see the West Bay Villa northwestern elevation here. You see the southeastern elevation. Move along to the side here, you'll see also another southeastern elevation. These gives you a a good idea of the residential single-family home. From Euclid, you can see the daycare from the eastern portion elevation of Euclid. Also the eastern elevation a little bit better of the daycare and also the residential single-family home. And then the western elevation also from Euclid. As I went out to the site, I'll show you the pictures I took. From the north of the site, you'll see the daycare existing. Across the street, you'll see those residential single-family homes we talked about, running to the north. If you go out to Manhattan, you'll run upon multiple commercial establishments running north and south. And also you'll have another commercial establishment, Dairy Joy, running north and south on Manhattan. To the southwest, you'll have a Jan Platt library. Also down there, you'll have a prep academy facility. This is another view from the eastern portion of the site of the current daycare. Eastern portion, you'll see from the site, you'll see more residential single-family homes. And if you go to the south of the site, you'll see that school that was recently approved right south of the daycare. Staff has found this consistent with the Land Development Code. The applicant will need to provide revisions to the staff report on the revision sheet if approved by City Council. I'm here for any questions if needed.
Any questions? I have one.
Yes, sir.
Can you put the picture of the frontage of the building that is there? I think it was your last photo, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
Yes, sir.
I cannot give evidence, so I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
Is that the business that is currently there?
This is the current daycare at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Hussain.
Thank you, sir.
Petitioner, at this moment, I see some people that are online that are also, some of them are legal advisors. Will they be giving any testimony?
The only people speaking.
Let's just say Tyler Hudson.
No.
They're not ready.
Okay. They're not on? Then I do need you and whomever you're going to represent, if they're going to speak, to be sworn in.
I was sworn in the beginning.
You have been?
Mhm. Yes, sir.
The gentleman with you going to be doing any
He has not.
speaking?
He's available for questions. He's a civil engineer at the project.
He needs to be sworn in. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Alex Shaler, 400 North Ashley Drive. For the record, as I stated, I have been sworn. CCTV is going to pull up a PowerPoint here. I'm here on behalf of the applicant for a special use 2 application for a daycare. Zane set this up really well, so we're just at the southeast corner of Manhattan and Euclid Avenue. The site is outlined in red. For a little background on the site, the 4302 West Euclid parcel, as Zane just showed you the pictures of, that is currently operating as a daycare. It was approved under SU2 1715 back in 2017. The applicant has acquired the parcel outlined in yellow. That is currently a single-family residential home. They're expanding the daycare to include that home. That will be interior renovations only that will be done through the building permit. But that is the expanded area, which is just directly south of the site. So this was the site plan that was approved under the original special use approval for the current daycare. The yellow highlighted area is where the expansion will be with that single family home. Planning Commission staff has found this application consistent. As mentioned, City of Tampa staff has also, across all reviewing departments, found this consistent, with the exception of fire, which we'll go into on this next slide. So we had originally submitted the application with this West Bayville Avenue access opened. That has now been closed per request of transportation staff. In doing so, we wanted to give an option for fire access to enter through that. So we have, as shown here, generated an exhibit. This is also uploaded in a Acela. It's been confirmed by the fire department, also with transportation staff as well, that this can be addressed during second reading. We'll be adding a gate with a knockbox for just fire access only. It will not be open to the general public. And that is all I have. It concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Comments or questions? I have one very quick one.
Of course.
Can you please put up your site plan with parking and the egress?
I can put it on here too.
Ms. Johnson-Velez, please, if you would, just make sure that I'm okay with asking some of these questions. I was looking for the other one, but I'll accept that one.
Okay.
How many children will, because the picture says it's a daycare, excuse me, a child care center. How many children are proposed to be in this child care center?
Currently, with the one building that's open right now, they're approved for 98 students. There's currently about 95 students. With this proposed expansion, the site plan gives them approval for 150 to 190 range of students, and that varies by age range, supervision ratio.
Then, if I may ask transportation, please.
Yes.
Jonathan Scott, Transportation Planning.
Hypothetically, you have 150 children at this child care center. Hypothetically, there would be 150 cars during drop-off and pickup. With the entrance and exit, is there enough for a queue for parents or guardians to be dropping off children there?
That,
Wait, excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't finish, I should have.
Sure.
Without blocking the streets, both the Euclid and Bay Villa.
Thank you for that question. We had looked at that. We don't have a requirement for the queue length, but if I recall from the previous, when this was previously approved, that was all brought up in discussion, and the drop-off and pickup times aren't all at the same time. They kind of stagger all these, and it hasn't been addressed as we don't foresee it as being a problem. The way it's designed, I think it's pretty good, actually.
Thank you. And please, I hope you understand my questioning. There are businesses around the city where their driveways get blocked. There are streets that get blocked because of queues for different types of child care, schools, and whatnot. And that was my concern. Any other comments or questions? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this? Do we have anybody online?
Yes, we do.
Hi, good evening.
Yes. Please go ahead, turn on your camera.
Don, can you see me now?
Yes, sir.
Robin, can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm you would tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I'm at Robin Diraj. I'm at 3806 South Hubert Avenue, and I'm here to speaking to object. I am the property directly east of the existing and proposed. And on site, am I limited to 2 minutes?
No, 3.
Okay, so I've got a number of questions and issues, and so I'll split them up. So I'd like to know how long this proposed construction is going to take. Number 2, is it going to be carried out by certified contractors? Last time they went through this project, the existing project, it took way too long. It looked like they were using folks who were not certified contractors. We had folks living on the site as they were developing it in campers. They looked like street people. They were parked in front of my house, causing traffic issues, getting in and out of my driveway, backing out I couldn't see. I had to drag my trash can to Bay Villa and Euclid Avenue to have it removed because of the cars. We also had people lunching in the shade in front of my property where they would leave their lunch trash and shoes and sneakers and socks that got wet in the weather. I would have to pick up. And of course, I enjoyed that during COVID, doing something like that during COVID. Let's see, what else is there? Also, we've got a traffic problem already as it stands, where people get in and out, in and out. We also have a flood standing water issue in the Heber Avenue Road, where the water does not flow away fast enough with the oncoming drenching of water. So it looks like in that corner they're expanding it, more traffic. At the moment, when it rains, the water actually comes and is up against my front door. And so we have these people coming through in SUVs that don't want to slow down. And of course, with the wave, it makes it come in under my front door. What else do we have? We have the people living on site during the last construction using my trash can and filling it up with their trash. When I phoned up the city and complained, I said, hey, they're living on the site in a camper. They said, oh, well, it's under development. They can do what they want. So that is not going to be able to fly either. I'm here to vehemently raise concerns about what is going on in this corner here, because what is going on is way too much for the corner. We've already got too much cut-through traffic for those folks that don't want to go to the light at Euclid and Henderson Avenue. They're cutting through in front of my house. They're cutting through to go to the library. They're cutting through to go to the workout center south of my house.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anyone else? Your rebuttal time.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that a building permit has to be pulled by a licensed contractor, so that will be ensured whenever they go to submit for this building permit. It's interior renovation only, so we won't have a ton of site work. They're just doing renovations interior to the building. And then drainage is obviously a concern that they'll handle during permitting and site design. And that's it.
Thank you. Am I missing anything? Move to close? Move to close. Thank you. We have a motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposed? Councilman Goose.
Issue -22-01. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. In order to approving a special use permit issued to approving a daycare in the RS6 residential single-family zoning district in the general vicinity of 4302 West Euclid Avenue and 4221 Bay Villa Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, and will be described in section 1 here, providing an effective date. Moving to the ordinance and direct revisions shown on the revision sheet be made as the applicant has met its burden of proof to provide competent and substantial evidence that the expansion of the existing daycare facility as conditioned and shown on the site plan is consistent with the comprehensive plan and city code. The expansion of the daycare facility is located in a residential 10 future land use designation, which allows neighborhood serving commercial uses.
Second. Motion made by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Hurtak. Yes. Carlson. Yes. Maniscalco.
Yes.
Vieira.
Yes.
Goose.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on July 14, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much. Information reports. Councilman Miranda. Councilman Magoo. Councilwoman Hurtak.
None.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Yes, sir. I have a couple of items. All right. So motion number one, a request, I'd like to make a motion. This is a request by the Planning Commission in coordination with the city's planning department to appear and present before City Council on July 28, 2022 at 9 a.m. on the following items. results of community outreach on the preliminary comprehensive plan vision. And number 2, an updated comprehensive plan vision for council's approval by resolution. I'd like to set that for 10 minutes for the record, so we have that on the agenda. Ma'am.
10 minutes.
Yes.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Roll call vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Anything else?
Yes, sir. This morning we spoke about at CRA about Silver Oaks, and I know that there is the Department of Regulation. We had discussed that, but I'd like a staff report, July 14th, under staff reports, and just to know what we can do from a code enforcement perspective, and regarding to any structural issues. Anything in particular that within the boundaries legally and what code enforcement can do in terms of citing a property. This is specific to Silver Oaks. We heard from the public, and we all know in general the conditions that of how people are living there. I don't want to overstep our boundaries, but I'd like to know what we can do. Should we send out code enforcement, inspectors to see, where to go from there in terms to how we respond to the request for the community.
Mr. Maniscalco,
Yes.
if you can add on to, amendment to the motion, I had already asked for Ms. Nguyen to give an update on the possible mutual aid agreement we might could get with the state and Riverside Code, so if she can give an update on that, because I haven't heard anything back from that.
Okay, so we can set that also for July 14th under staff reports.
That's fine. Just so that council's aware, I did speak with Kamaria Pettis-Mackle today. They are trying to get the state to interact with us about a mutual aid agreement. So they're working on that, and she thought that July 14th she could give a full report of where they stand on that and where our jurisdictional boundaries are on these types of issues. So
all right,
that works.
Councilman Vera, did you have something you want to add?
Yes, sir. I have an amendment, a very friendly amendment, if I may, for that. We've also discussed Timber Falls, which is on 113th, which is just as deplorable. And I know Councilman Goods has been out there. I've been out there. Representative Hart, Commissioner Myers. Would there be any objection to adding on Timber Falls to that, or
why not?
at all?
Why not?
Okay.
No,
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I accept that.
All right, then I'm going to go with Councilman Vieira making the amendment to add second through.
He can have it. I mean, like we do.
But you made the amendment to it. Seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Anything else, Councilman Maniscalco?
And I think I'm correct. I can't see that far, but Kristen Moore is in the back here. Just want to acknowledge her. I wonder if this is a hint that are you coming back to the city, or are you just hanging out?
Just hanging out.
All right. Wow. Just want to acknowledge her. She worked here at the city for many, many years. Wonderful public servant. We appreciate you, and we're glad to see you here.
Stole my thunder.
And happy birthday, Michael J. Fox.
Oh, what do you? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's it.
That's
Thank
funny.
You.
Councilman Vieira.
Marty McFly. Really fast, if I may. On August 4th, I had an update on monetary support for victims of crime coming. I may not be here that day because of a mediation that I have to do in my private practice. That may intrude on that. May I? If I may, I want to move that to the July 28th session of council.
A motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye. And thank you. And then on the July, I forgot what it is, the commendation day, we're going to have Colonel DJ Reyes with us. I actually have another mediation that day and can't make it, unfortunately, for that. And I was going to move that to July 14th, if I may.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
And for the clerk, that's for a commendation for Colonel DJ Reyes. And lastly, this is, I apologize for bringing up something very controversial in the evening. I wanted to do a motion to have the mayor support and create a veterans advisory group. I was being funny about the controversial. I know, right? It's not controversial, but much like we have in the city of Tampa, I think it's called the African American Advisory Group, Hispanic Disability, and I've talked to the administration about it. And I'd love to see something similar to that for veterans here in the city of Tampa, to advise on things that the ways that the city can better assist veterans in policy, patriotic holidays, different things like that.
We have a motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
And that's
Any
it.
opposed?
Thank you.
Councilman Carlson.
Nothing, thank you.
Nothing from me. If I hear no, received and filed by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Goose. All in favor, say aye. Without objection, we're adjourned.